How many times? Hundreds. 50 at least. I bet you're looking forward to Yatra, huh? Will you be coming? Okay. That's nice. When this topic was selected, I was thinking of you. How you must let go. I might be there. What's Udupi known for? Udupi is known for Udupi Krishna and Madhvacarya. Two outstanding things. And many of the topics that will be discussed during the yatra and during this visit to Naperville, for me, it's just an opportunity to become more familiar with the subject matter that we'll be discussing during the yatra. So you're getting a preview. A few things. The history and the history of Madhvacarya and his appearance, etc., is something that the lens through which this topic is going to be approached is largely from the Madhva followers themselves, which varies somewhat, not in principle, but varies somewhat from what we're accustomed to hearing. For example, here's a for example. In the Garuda Purana, there's some verses that indicate Vayu and the expansions or portions or plenary portions of him. He gets a lot of attention in Garuda Purana, Sattvika Purana. There it's stated that Vayu appeared in Treta Yuga as Hanuman, in Dwapara Yuga as Bhima, and in Kali Yuga as the re-establisher of real Vedanta. So that's Madhva. Vayu was the father, as we know from Ramayana, the father of Hanuman. Vayu was the father of Bhima. And an establisher, re-establisher of real Vedanta, re-establisher means it had been disturbed or covered and messed around with by various purposes and personalities, so he restored it. And he will, according to Garuda Purana, he will slay the philosophy of Maniman Daitya. Maniman Daitya, it's been a learning experience for me, so it'll probably be a little more refined by the time we get to Udupi. But Maniman, so far my understanding is, he's a demon who, during the Mahabharata war, was killed by Bhima. I don't know more than that little statement, and I'd like to find out more between now and when we get to Udupi. So he was instigated by various personalities to come and appear as Shankaracharya and destroy not only the understanding of the Vedas, but that which is a support of the Vedas, that is the Varna and Ashram system. Now this is what's described in Garuda Purana, and it's what the biographers in the Madhva line, not just, historians, but acharyas, describe about Madhvacarya. Being endowed by the Supreme Lord with transcendental wisdom, he is worshipable even amongst the demigods. Madhvacarya. Now this is from his biography, but the biography comes from scriptural source and acharyas in the Madhva line. So there's a lens through which you'll hear things. It's taken me a while to digest the history, because it's not, the Gaudiya teaching where I'm accustomed to takes a while. So there's some history of Udupi. There's sources of biography of Madhvacarya. These two acharyas in the Madhva line mentioned, their name is Trivikram and Narayana Panditacharya. There's a book written by one of their acharyas called Mani Manjari. It's the title of a book, and it's the prelude to Madhva's appearance. And then there's a second book written by the same author with scriptural reference. Here's the name, Su Madhva Vijaya, is his appearance and his activities. Very elaborate, very detailed kinds of description. And so class 1, this is what's going to happen when we get to Udupi. And this is going to be bifurcated into 2 classes, what you see on the screen. Okay. History of Udupi. Now, the source, the person who provided this information did lots and lots of research. It's Shamakund and his team of people helping him. He lives in Bangalore, and he's really good at researching things. And so credit should go to him and the people that are working with him. Multiple sources and distilled over months. So some etymology of the word Udupi. It's derived from the Tulu name Odipu. Premananda. Tulu? Never heard it. You know Tulu language? Okay. Okay, I was asking if you're familiar. Could you help Shatarupa take a look at a map and say, here's Udupi, because my understanding it's further south. Anyway, where is the headquarters or the ancestral picture of where Tulu or Tuluism or the Tulus resided? They were based, because I want to be able to see it and show it when we get there. Because I asked her in the car yesterday. So in this language, O Dipu is derived from the place Oda Bandeshwara. Oda Bandeshwara means the Lord who came from breaking the rock or clay mound. Some of you know of the history of Madhvacarya receiving the Udupi Krishna deity. It's a long history. There was a boat that was, anyway, he received the deity that was within a block of sandalwood. And when the sandalwood cracked open, the deity was there. So he received, so that's the Udupi, the name. Madhvacarya obtained 3 vigrahas of Krishna, Balaram and Janardana, in yellow clay mound from a ship heading from Dwaraka. So this deity of Krishna, Udupi Krishna, was long ago worshipped in Dwarka. There's some history which I'm not going to go into right now, but we will when we get to Udupi. The deity of Balaram, which was installed by Madhvacarya at Malpe. Now Malpe is near Udupi. You don't know. You don't know where Malpe is. Me either. That's why I'm doing this now instead of when we get to Udupi. It's locally known as Oda Bandeshwara, even now in the native Tulu language. So here's the three deities. Krishna deity, Udupi Krishna. The Balaram deity in Malpe. And the Janardana deity. Yermal Janardan Temple. I don't know where that is, but I should know. I'll have to find out. That's why I'm doing this preview. So here's a nice explanation of the Sanskrit term Udu, or stars, Pa, is the Lord. So Udu Pa in Sanskrit means the Lord of the stars, which is the moon. According to Mahabharata, Salya Parva, chapter 35, Daksha gave his 27 daughters in marriage to Chandra. These 27 daughters are the 27 nakshatras, or constellations, so the Lord of the stars. Once the deity of the moon, Chandra, or Udupa, became completely preoccupied with his favorite queen. This is his history of Udupi, Rohini. In the process, he totally forgot his other 26 wives. Problem. Tired of being ignored by their husband, the 26 wives complained to their father, Daksha. Daksha cursed Chandra to lose his radiance and slowly diminish in time into complete oblivion. You know, the waning and waxing of the moon. This history is Daksha's curse. Being overcome by the efforts of Daksha's curse, Chandra immediately resorted to Abjaranya, or the modern Udupi, which was a forest, and near a lake, which later became known as Chandra Pushkarani, he started doing severe penance and austerities, propitiating Lord Shiva. Pleased with the moon's penance, Shiva appeared in the form of a linga and warded off the evil effects and toned down Daksha's curse on the moon. So there's a Shiva linga, there's the moon, there's the phases of the moon. From then on, the moon, instead of totally diminishing slowly, began to wax and wane every fortnight, alternately. From then, Shiva became known as Udupi Nath, or Chandreshwara. The Chandreshwara Muleshwara temple in Udupi celebrates this pastime of Chandra. And there's the deity. So Udupi is popular and officially the official name of the town. Odipu is the native and regional one. The more classical name is Rajata Pita Pura, or Ropia Pita Pura. So in case you're a local person and you don't like the word Udupi, You've got two other names. In Sanskrit, this means the city of the silver altar, or the seat, or the pedestal, named after the deity and the altar on which the deity sits. The city is known by this name because it's the location where the very ancient silver pedestal is enshrined, on which Ananteshwara Linga. The pedestal and linga are housed in the sanctum of the temple of Ananteshwara. Premanand, are you familiar with that deity? You like Udupi Krishna. Ananteshwara, he's... Huh? Yeah, me too. You had experience in Udupi? Yeah. Have you seen this deity? Yeah. There's another photograph. The very word or term Shivali is derived from the Kannada compound Shiva and Beli, which means Shiva plus silver. Here's another image of the deity at night. This became the spiritual center of the migrant Shivali community, which in turn obtained this name precisely because it made Ananteshwara Temple the community's spiritual center. Now there's some history of how this community of Brahmanas ended up in Udupi. They migrated, there was some history which is coming up. How did the silver pedestal come into being? Once the legendary king, Ramabhoja, who ruled over this region of the Parashurama Kshetra, decided to extend his kingdom by performing Ashvamedha Yajna. There's the horse, and there's the king, and there's the Brahmanas. The priests of Ramabhoja's court chose a plot of land on the western side of the Chandra Maulishwara temple to serve as the place of sacrifice. It is customary for the patronizing monarch to plow the chosen sacrificial ground, initially as a sort of groundbreaking ceremony even before the preliminary activities of the yajna are begun. But there's a problem. What's the problem? Oh, look at that. As the king was plowing the sacrificial ground, a snake somehow got caught in the plow and was instantly killed. The king, Ramabhoja, was terrified at the thought that his yajna should commence with such an evil omen, and also the fact that he had committed the rather grave sin of killing a snake. So what did he do? Ramabhoja prayed day and night to Parashuram and Lord Shiva, who has a snake ornament or Nagabhushana. The incident left King Ramabhoja deeply shaken. Then he had a dream. One night, in answer to the monarch's sincere prayers, Parashuram and Shiva appeared in Ramabhoja's dream and ordered him to do the following, which would absolve him of his sin. I don't know where you found this painting, but fantastic. Build a silver pedestal and place it at the center of the chosen sacrificial arena. Construct 4 temples of snakes, Naga aliyas, around Udupi. Donate his weight in gold to pious and worthy persons. How'd you like to have a dream like that? And so he did, swiftly, because he placed a silver pedestal in the center of the sacrificial arena. Udupi became known as Rajata Pitapura, or Ropya Pitapura. And because he donated his weight in gold on a balance, or a tula, the land became known as Tulava, and its people, the Taulavas. He did a lot of research. Happy over Ramboja's act, both Parashram and Shiva decided to appear together in unison as one entity and dwell there in spirit. This is the deity of Ananteshwara. So we'll be going to these places. Now there's some history between Udupi and Mahabharata. There's few histories between Udupi and Mahabharata. Once all the peace missions had failed, and it was definite that the Mahabharata war would take place. Kings from various lands had joined either the Pandavas or... Now there's a kingdom down there. So the king was approached. Which side do you want to fight on? And he said, I don't want to choose either side. Rather, what I'll do is feed the armies for both sides. So that was accepted. And he had the opportunity as a result to associate with the Pandavas. After the day's battle was over, the soldiers of both sides would sit together. The soldiers of both sides would sit together and take their food, arranged for by the king of Udupi. During the meal, Sri Krishna would sit by the side of Yudhishthira Maharaj. The Udupi king would personally serve both of them. Very special. Vaishnava Seva and Krishna Seva. The food, the king of Udupi would prepare just the right amount. This is interesting. Just the right amount of food required by the survivors every day. He seemed to know how many soldiers would die each day. So the soldiers, the Pandavas, wanted to know, how do you know how much to make? They went into the kitchen and asked the cooks, how come this isn't an excess or shortage? The cooks replied, each day the Udupi king fixes the amount of food to be prepared for feeding the exact number of surviving soldiers. Our king knows how many soldiers are going to die each day. So deducing that number, he orders food to be prepared for the surviving soldiers. Well, that was very interesting. So the Pandavas went to the king of Udupi and asked, how do you know how many will be the remaining soldiers? Interesting answer. The Udupi king replied, it is I who serve pudding to Sri Krishna. I attentively observe how many peanuts he eats out of the pudding. And from that I calculate how many soldiers are going to die the next day. Each peanut stands for so many thousands soldiers fated to die. Sri Krishna will inform me by eating that many number of peanuts. Pretty esoteric, huh? In this way I know how much food I must prepare, considering the number of soldiers who would die the next day. The Pandavas then went and prayed to Krishna. Your will decides how many are supposed to die each day in the battle. Our fighting is only a show. So some history of Mahabharata and Udupi. Then comes another interesting history. Those brahmanas that you saw the picture of before, there is some history that they were not during a particular period of time in this geographic area. They were from another place. Mayura Sharma, a Brahmin from the Tulu region, went to Kanchi, the capital of the Pallavas, to pursue his Vedic studies, accompanied by his guru and grandfather, Veera Sharma. Kanchi was an important center of learning at that time. There, having been humiliated by a Pallava guard or a horseman, in a rage, Mayura Sharma gave up his Brahminical studies and took to the sword to avenge this insult. Not good. He founded the dynasty of Kadambas in the 4th century and later came to be known as Mayura Varma. He invited some sages to visit his kingdom. The sages declined the royal invitation on the basis that there were no proper practicing Brahmins in the region. So what did he do? He went and invited some Brahmanas. On the advice of the sages, Mayura Varma personally went to Aichchatra. Do you know where this place is? Aichatur? You heard of that place, Devaki? 18 miles west of Bareilly and 7 miles north of Anola in modern Uttar Pradesh. He invited and escorted the Brahmana community, 32,000 Brahmins, to the Tulu region. However, Mayura Varma provided these Brahmins with all the due facilities to pursue their spiritual and academic vocations and did his very best to make them feel comfortable and wanted, and I think it should say in their new homeland. However, he left this world after Mayura Varma, his younger minor son, Kanga Varma, ascended the Kadamba throne. As a young boy, Kanga Varma was least interested in governing the land, let alone patronizing religion. The state affairs of Tulu Nud fell into bad times as each minister vied with the other to gain control and influence over the young minor king. Sound familiar? I'll spare the comment. As I travel here and there, I hear stories like this. You know, modern stories of a lack of a head, and so groups start vying with other groups, and not pleasant. Amidst this power struggle and politicking, the Aichchatra Brahmins felt totally neglected and unwanted in the new regime. Thus, they migrated back to their original home. Meanwhile, Kanga Varma had taken over the state affairs of Tulava. That's the younger son. There's a nice photograph. He immediately saw his mistake and at once went to Aichchatra to get them back because things became in disarray. The Brahmins of Aichchatra decided to make their second and final migration to Tulu land, but The bulk of them chose to settle in Shivali, or Udupi itself, which means it's further south, the Tulu land place, and Udupi is a little north, and the place that they came from was UP. From then, these Brahmanas of Uttar Pradesh came to be known as Shivali Brahmins of Tulu Nad. They developed their own dialect of Kannada, but maintained the traditions from their past. The Ananteshwara temple at Udupi became the spiritual and cultural center for the entire 272 families of the Shivali Brahmin community. So it was a much bigger number that came originally. Now it's 72 families, 272 families. Madhva's parents belonged to a prominent family amongst the Shivali Brahmin families. Someone said something? Madhva came from Udupi. His ancestors came from UP, but he didn't. Yeah. You got the UP flag you're waving or something? Vrindavan. What about? Huh? Okay. But you're from Maharashtra. I won't, no, never mind. The Shivali community, I said, your base is in Maharashtra. Oh. You're not that body though, that's the good thing. Okay. The Shivali community came under the influence of the Bhagavata Sampradaya. Bhagavata Sampradaya means that they had a strong affinity for Srimad Bhagavatam. Strong affinity from Srimad Bhagavatam. And they adopted it as the official religion of the community. This 272 families. Uh-oh. However, when Shankaracharya came onto the scene, he revitalized the Hindu faith by his whirlwind traveling throughout India. The Shivalis, with very little resistance, seem to have adopted his Advaita Vedanta, and furthermore, the Smarta Panchayatana, Panchayatana. So this is, the five primary deities, and you can worship anyone, and Om Jaya Jagadisha Hare. This is good. And the rest of his teachings. The Saguna Brahman. Nonetheless, the Shivali Brahmins retained their affiliation to the Bhagavata Sampradaya, and there was regular recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam. The undercurrent of bhakti was still strong in this community. The plot thickens. The bondage between Shankar's Mayavad and the Shivali community was reinforced all the more by the fact that one of the Shankara's four most favorite monastic disciples, Hashta Malaka, who subsequently became the first pontiff, I guess, chief priest of the Puri Shankara Mat hailed from the Bani Jaitaya family of the Shivalis. So one of the four, as the painting shows, four most prominent followers or disciples or assistants of Shankaracharya hailed from this community. And he was posted in Puri, but he hailed from this community. Hasta Malaka was delegated by Shankara to propagate the cause of Shankara's Advaita Brahmavad in Tulanad and bring it under the aegis of his Smarta Pancha Yatana Sampradaya. Hasta Malaka is said to have established a deity of Venu Gopal at Adi Udupi and introduced the Pancha Yatana form of worship in the temples of Tulu land. It's getting a little more complicated. When the caretakers of this deity could no longer take care of the deity, this deity was given to the Sri Krishna Mat temple in Udupi. Many mats were established and instituted to administer and guide the people of Tulava in Shankara's new philosophy and religion. These were then brought under the spiritual jurisdiction of Dvaraka Mat and not the Shringeri Mat due to the influence of Hasta Malaka. The monks of these mats took the Tirtha and Ashram orders of Ekadanda Sannyas. Here's Shankara and one of his students. The Ananta Mat at Udupi was one such Smarta Pancha Yatana Advaitic Suvali institution. This was attached to the Ananteshwara temple at Udupi. Madhva's guru, Achyuta Preksha, was the last head of the Ananta Mat. After Madhva took over, it became the current day Sri Krishna Mat. So now the details and narration shifts. There's this book written by one of his followers. Here's the name of the follower, Narayana Panditacharya. He wrote this biography of the history of Lord Ramachandra Krishna and what happened before the appearance of Madhva himself. Now, this is a lot of just reading text on a screen. And the next part, I think I'm just going to pause and continue tomorrow. The next part is extracts from this Mani Manjari text, not the part of the history of Rama and Krishna, but the history of these two, Narayana Panditacharya and who's the other Acharya? Huh? Okay. What? Trivikrama. So tomorrow we'll begin without looking at all the reading text on the screen, and I'll narrate some of the history leading up to the appearance of Madhvacharya. And the history, once again, is through the lens of Madhvas. It's very different. The history that you'll hear is very different than the kind of narration of history that we're accustomed to hear. It might be like Madhva's hearing Chaitanya Charitamrita and going, what? So when we're hearing this history of these previous acharyas to Madhvacarya, it's a little perplexing, or unfamiliar at least. So get ready. And it's directly from a book, one of two biographies. There's one biography is this Mani Manjari. It's a biography of Ramakrishna and before Madhva's appearance. And then the next biography is after his appearance, in his activities, in his teachings, and his glories. And as we heard from Garuda Purana, that it's said that hearing these glories is as good as hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he's representing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's taken that way directly by the Madhvas. And we'll hear a lot about glorification of Bhima that we're not used to hearing. But there's a reason, because Hanuman, Bhima, and Madhvacarya are manifestations of Vayu. So they have that intimacy, and there's lots and lots and lots of commentary directly by Madhvacarya indicating the special, that was 3 times, importance of Vayu, comparing and contrasting Vayu and who were the offspring of Vayu, including the discussion about Bali and Sugriva, and so etc. So he's superior in Madhva's commentary on Mahabharata, very celebrated commentary on Mahabharata. Madhva considered Mahabharata to be the most exalted of scriptures amongst the Itihasas and Puranas. But we'll be hearing some of this tomorrow. It's different. It's a lens that's different than our Gaudiya lens, but is derived from proper sources, and it's worthy of being repeated because it's directly from the Madhva line, which we're from. It's just to share, but also to help me prepare, because it's very new and very different. Okay, see if there's some discussion. I thought so. My understanding is pervasive. It's part of the doctrine. It's not location specific, it's doctrine. It's the Nirguna Brahman, and for those who have worship inclinations, here's what you can do. Because Brahman. But those of you that like to do worship, you can take any one of these 5 and you'll get to Nirguna Brahman. It's a platform, it's not a location-specific strategy. That's my understanding. And we call it Panchupasana, and they call it something else. It's the same. Okay? Yeah. You got to speak slower because the sound system is not helping me to understand where your words are. Yeah, it's heavy. I mean, heavy. We'll hear it tomorrow. Well, actually, let me back up. The person who provided all this research is recommending that I don't cover that portion from their teachings that consider Shankaracharya coming as Maniman, as a demon. Rather, his recommendation, his preference after thinking about this is, very similar to, we'll cover it tomorrow. It's, he's in touch with Brahman, but it's his understanding and propagating that understanding of Brahman is supreme is incomplete. So it's much softer than demon. That's his plan for Sringeri Mat. And we're not going to have our weapons in our hand and our defenses up. Just, respecting. So it's a different way of approaching than Madhva's, for sure. That's your point. Yes. 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 There's lots of different understandings besides that one. From Scripture. But, he has his position, and his position is referenced from Scripture, and I see a few hands up. Let's go to Mataji in the back. I couldn't follow. Chandra is the... My ears don't permit me to hear what you're saying. I'm struggling. Daksha, yes. Moon god was cursed by Daksha. It's a history thing. I don't know. It's a nice question. The answer is I don't know. Nice question. Yes. Very what? This is unfamiliar. Yes, me too. Respect. Respect. That's our aspiration. He is who he is. He's a luminary that brought the course correction back. Here's a little answer to your question. you know, is Hari Parshad Prabhu. So he gave a seminar on the 9 pillars of Madhvacarya. And the Nava Prameyas were written by Baladev Vidyabhusan because he was initiated in the Madhva Sampradaya, which is very similar to but different from. It's the Gaudiya version of Madhva's Nava Prameya, 9 pillars. I don't know what the Sanskrit is, 9 pillars. And so during that talk of the 9 pillars of Madhva's teachings, it says some very different things. You know, one of the shocking ones is that Lakshmi is a jiva. And there's a hierarchy of jivas, and they're fixed. Birth after birth. So he's, you know, and there's, so the question, what during the question answer session, there was the question, following your question, why did Lord Chaitanya, you know, there's 4 sampradayas, and there are some sampradayas that are much more like his teaching, so why did he select Madhva Sampradaya to adopt his, you know, to receive his Diksha from? And the answer given by Hari Parshad, I thought was a very nice answer. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also wanted to make this very clear distinction between, you know, Dvaita and Advaita. Now, then we, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers, are a branch, shakha. And branches of the tree may be different than what you might see on this branch or that branch. So how your question is how to process these differences and think that, like, Lakshmi is a jiva and so forth. There's other things. There's many things that are quite similar, but the essence of the personality of Godhead as the source of everything is very strong, and there's diversity within that Supreme who's the source of everything. The Saguna Brahman conception is very strong, and living entities are not the same as jivas, and that's a very fundamental doctrine that Madhva felt that Ramanujacharya wasn't sufficiently strong on. Vishishta Advaita. Dvaita. So how are we to view? Your question is how to view. We're from that line. It's good for us to know what his teachings are and who he is, because we're in his line. Although we're a branch, and some of the teachings and points of emphasis are very different. It's like, you know, Madhavendra Puri reciting the verse that he recited again and again, entering into what was not part of Madhva's line. He broke ranks by a particular emphasis of mood, the mood of the love of the gopis and feelings of separation from Krishna. It's not part of Madhva's teaching and mood. So how do we view Madhva? How do we view Madhavendra Puri? And there's a root, or a trunk of the tree, and this is Madhva's line. So we should know and be able to respect, which is my first answer, and feel deep gratitude for what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give, and the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that gave it fearlessly, including Baladev, or from the Ramanuja line, you know, the Gopal Bhatta, etc., etc., etc. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a way of harmonizing those differences. So we can look at the differences and with palms folded being various, because he did a very important service. He restored the personality of Godhead, who was obliterated. And because he was who he was, Shankaracharya was very effective. And because people were soft, he was successful. But he was hard and restored. It was the purpose of his appearing. And we'll hear about that some tomorrow. There's some history, interesting history, from this Mani Manjari, the prelude to his appearing. The demigods saw what was going on, and they approached the person. They approached Brahma, help. So Brahma approached Vayu. Please appear and set things straight. And thus, the form of Madhvacarya is an appearance of Vayu following the order of Lord Brahma and setting things straight. So that's how we, with respect, he met a great challenge. Hanuman what? Hanuman what? Well, he's continuing to live. I mean, all souls live forever. So what's your point? An expansion. Vayu. Think of Vayu. He's a demigod. But the principle of Vayu, because creation comes and goes, and Vayu comes and goes, but it's the principle, it's a manifestation of a personality of Godhead empowering a living entity to perform that function of Vayu. That's what demigods are. That's how they become demigods. Vayu is what? Take the microphone away. Yeah, there's an understanding that demigods can also expand themselves, or a portion of those demigods can manifest in different entities by the will of the Supreme Lord. It's not like there's multiple jivas. It's that they're angsa of that demigod can manifest according to the will of the Supreme Lord. According to the will of the Supreme Lord is the operative principle. It's very much like when Vishnu said to Brahma, please instruct the demigods to take birth on earth. It's not like they hang a sign outside their office and said, I went to earth for a while. I'll be back after Krishna's pastimes. An angsa of those devas appeared within personalities on earth. And that angsa, when Krishna's departure took place, returned. You could say entered into, but on the order of the Supreme Lord, such things can happen. So similarly. What's that? Yeah, go ahead.
Regarding the question of the untouchable Brahmins from UP, when they migrated back.
Yes, some of them did.
So the Zulu language, the land of so the Kadamba kingdom was from Maharashtra.
Oh, Tamil Nadu.
And Udupi was the center for the valley.
Okay, okay.
And the capital of the kingdom was 100 kilometers further to Udupi. They stopped at Udupi. They could have gone further. The entire thing was
Okay. You're going to write this and send it to me, right? Thank you.
and then Mangalore at this point also seems to be the place where Hindu language is commonly spoken.
Yeah.
And Udupi is the center for the
Historically. Okay.
in some directionally, Malpe is 7 kilometers northwest, and you also
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there was Janardhan,
Yeah, yeah. How far? 20 kilometers. Which direction? South. The Janardhan Temple. Okay. Huh? Yeah. Yes. Yes. She's on the case. Busy girl. Okay, I think we're done. Thank you very much. You're the Prabhupada Ki Jai.